Since forming yet another sideways trading pattern after dumping lower, I did mention to you guys that I expected we would be in most likely a bearish sort of pennant, some sort of bearish formation, a bear flag, whatever you want to call it. And we've obviously already had a little bit of this, so if I switch this over to perhaps the 1 hour chart, it's a little bit clearer to see where I pointed out that, you know, after we get the dump, we're probably going to consolidate, and the consolidation will be really quick, and that's exactly what it was because we carried the move downwards. And since that point, we have been trading largely sideways in yet another consolidation channel. And you know, it's really useful and important to segment the chart like this, because you know, right now a chart that perhaps looks quite meaningless to you, when you draw these kinds of circles around price action, you can very distinctly see what you should be paying attention to and what you shouldn't be paying attention to. The fact is, guys, the only thing we're interested in are the vertical moves, and what we want to know is what the horizontal moves tell us about what the next vertical move might be. That's literally our only job as traders, because we trade volatility, and up and down movements is the only thing that we get as volatility. So what we have right now is a very clearly established bearish pattern where we have had, you know, a series of lower highs and lower lows over the past couple of months now, which has resulted in the pressure giving way, as I did expect, to some pretty explosive price action to the downside. Now what we have right now over the past couple of days, in fact just earlier today, very early today, is we ended up touching our support level at roughly $7,700. It swept the prior low, but only just. This essentially counts as a double bottom on the daily chart, where we ended up hitting the same low. And this is important because we formed a slightly lower low, but rapidly following that, we've ended up testing the high once again. So if we go over to the Coinbase chart, where I have a few lines drawn, you can see that I have had this line drawn for a little bit of time, this yellow line here at 8,330, and it was previously a bit of support. It then turned into resistance, and as expected, it's becoming resistance right now. Now on the very, very short-term chart, we're in a very short-term uptrend. We started the uptrend, we paused the trend over here, we had a bull flag, we continued higher, and it looks like we're in exactly the same thing right now. It looks like with the very short-term chart, we are ready to break higher. Obviously, if we switch over to the Fear and Greed Index on Bitcoin, it is currently at a reading of 27. Yesterday it was at 33, last week it was at 39, last month it was at 41. And so as you can see, the numbers are lowering, and the lower the number, essentially the more fearful the market is. Now this is viewable if you just go to Fear Index, type in on Google Fear Index crypto, and it should be the first search result. So you can take a look at this and find out why we measure it and how it's measured, so you can read into this if you're interested. But it is seen as generally reliable by myself and many other traders in the space. And with that in mind, if we are starting to see, you know, a potential lower low followed by a swift recovery upwards at a point where we very easily could have dumped much lower, but we also have this swift recovery, and we have the short-term signs showing us that we might trade higher, and we have, to be fair, tested the resistance a fair few times. It is telling me that we could end up breaking higher. I don't know if the odds for this are great, and to be honest, it doesn't matter too much, because overall, the next thing I want to point out is that no matter what happens, Bitcoin is going to struggle. What awaits us as soon as we break out of this pennant, if we break out of this pennant, is a series of resistance levels above us. Now, the resistance levels aren't particularly strong. The first one that we're going to have is the consolidation zone that we had in June, the bottom of that zone being roughly 8,600, and the top being roughly 9,400, 9,500, depending on how you look at it. So it's not going to be a huge area of resistance in terms of numbers, and it's also not very strong, but the reason it's concerning to me is that it lines up perfectly with where the Ichimoku cloud is at right now, where the Ichimoku cloud starts at 8,900, ends at 9,100, but it's lowering, and it's gotten to the point now where the resistance lies at $8,500. And I know it looks like this is quite far away, but let's bear in mind, this is only the 5th of October that we hit this resistance level. In fact, very late 4th of October or very early 5th of October, depending on your time zone, we're going to hit this resistance level. And considering we're at the end of September now, when you're watching this video, we're probably already in October. this is literally only a matter of 4 or 5 days away where we have this resistance. And if I say that it may take 4 or 5 days to rise up to this level, if we even rise up to this level, I don't think that's unreasonable to say. And guys, the deal is, even if we do end up getting some sort of breakout to the upside, I don't think it's going to be able to carry much weight, because right now the bearish pattern is in the short term, and we would really be fighting that bearish pattern quite hard if we ended up breaking higher. But all we have above us right now is resistance. That's the small level of resistance taken care of, but the bigger level of resistance is obviously this horizontal level, which we kept on using as support. And this is actually very concerning to me, because I don't think we have the strength right now to break this resistance level. And if we end up touching this resistance level and getting rejected, I think it means a massive move to the downside. Guys, what it's going to mean, first of all, by the way, you can see it very clearly that we have this W shape with the double bottom, you know, where the chart looks a bit like this. W shapes like this are obviously super bullish, and M shapes like this are obviously super bearish, where you get two tests of resistance. And right now with the W shape, obviously it's looking bullish, but the deal is, guys, yeah, if we end up touching this same level that we were rejected from many times, and supported from many times, and we get rejected from it, you know, in October 2019, I think it's going to spell some really bad signs for Bitcoin, because what it means is that we had a second chance at recovering above to this price level, and the bears were ready to step in. There was enough fear in the market to essentially lend us to drop significantly lower. And yeah, if we get rejected here, I have no faith in this support level holding, so I would expect new lows. I would expect, at least if we don't already hit it, 7,500. If not, I would expect the $6,000 level from 2018 to peek its head again. Now, going back to the fear index, the reason I brought this up is that when the fear index is relatively low, and you can see it has gotten lower, if we're starting to get bullish signs like these two, like the fact that we had a potential lower low, like the fact that we do have some bullish momentum right now, the fact that the resistance isn't huge above us right now, and on the 1 hour chart we do have Ichimoku resistance, but the next 1 or 2 candles will trade us outside of the cloud. If we just stay sideways, it'll make us trade outside of the cloud and potentially break out. We have negated some of the very short-term bearish signs at the moment. Obviously, like I said, we've potentially touched the resistance enough times to invalidate it, and the reason I'm starting to talk to you about a potential very short-term bullish move now is that this time we've touched the resistance, we've traded at the resistance level for a significant period of time. We've traded at it for 9 hours, pushing 10 obviously with the next 1 hour candle. So this is pretty significant. The last times we traded at this resistance, it only lasted for, you know, less than 1 hour, you know, not even 1 hour of a candle, usually just a wick, or in this case, or every time, but just a wick. So perhaps just a few minutes, but this time it has been significantly longer. And if we're able to hang around support for this long, it is telling me that we do potentially have some strength to break it. But like I said, I don't think we're done with the downside. You know, I do think that we are potentially due to see the $7,500 level. I've outlined for you why I think that's the case. Obviously, this is kind of like the final support level we have here at 74.95, this bottom green line over here. It is the final support level that Bitcoin had when it was making its moves, and I don't see why it would stop so soon at, you know, 7,700. I think that it makes a little bit more sense if it can bottom out just a little bit lower, sweep the previous low, and then potentially move on upwards. So that's why I don't think we're done with this range, and that's why I do think if we do end up breaking out, we could start to face some problem. It's a bit of mixed sentiment right now, because I mean, I did play the short side today. I did expect us to go down, and I was right. I mean, I did book a bit of a profit, but the profit wasn't huge. It was 12%, and then I was stopped out at break even. And obviously, members in VIP, message here I got from a VIP member quite recently who, you know, I posted a trade. This person thought I wasn't making the right decision, and you know, I don't know how you do this, but I gotta say, you're a fucking wizard. Turns out my concerns were unjustified. Good thing that this person traded, and of course, you know, my reply was that my analysis is really simple. So even if certain things might look a little bit weird at first, it's because I'm not overcomplicating my analysis and I'm not throwing a dozen different indicators on the chart to justify my decision. So sometimes it does come out as very simple, almost like I'm taking baby steps, but it usually does work out very nicely. In today's case, I mean, yes, a profit was booked. Yes, I did close at 12% profit, but it's not really something I would consider amazing, although to be fair, there wasn't a huge amount of volatility other than this upside move. So, you know, I was playing short and played the right kind of short there, but it does look like a kind of position where, you know, the market doesn't fully know what it wants to do. I think that if we end up getting rejected from here, we're obviously going to end up trading down near the bottom of this range. The potential best case scenario for Bitcoin right now is actually what it's already started to do, which is if it turns the $8,200 level into support. And you can see that it has been a little bit of resistance in the past. It has been a little bit of support, resistance once again. It's been support today though, and it's been support with two very clean touches with these wicks. You can see the low, looking at the OHLC on the top, the low is at 8,188 and 8,191. So literally within $3 of accuracy there, and within $11 of accuracy with the $8,200 round number, we are starting to find some support here. I don't know how significant it would be though. The good news is potentially we could trade sideways and keep finding support here, and if we trade here for long enough, which I think we've already started to do, it could give us the potential to rise higher. But if we don't, I am looking at the $7,700 level, and much more so than that, I do expect that we would end up hitting the $7,500 level, simply because that's where I think a lot of the support that we haven't used lies, and this is where we can start to shake off the bears. If we can start to see a price level like $7,500, $7,400 levels, that's where I think the bears can start getting shaken out, because they'd be done selling, and since it is kind of like the final frontier of support, I do think that's where the bulls will also be happy to step in and get some orders placed, get some longs filled, and various different things like that. Obviously, I don't think we'd be breaking the $7,500 level on the first touch. So that's why my eyes are still there, but it really does depend on what happens in the market right now. We do have EMA resistance with the 4-hour chart as well, and we can see that it has been semi-reliable when the market has been trending as it is right now. I think the most recent example where the market has been trending as it is right now is actually back here, and so we can see that when the prices ended up trading inside the EMA ribbon, they ended up getting a nice bounce higher. Since then, it has still been a little bit reliable around here, where when we trade up into the EMA ribbon, we end up getting rejected, but not hugely. So I don't know how much weight I would put into this, but again, it's a nice sign to see. And of course, when all of the other signs are bearish in the short term, when we do have this bearish trend, when we've already played out one bear flag and we're potentially in a slightly bigger one, it's still telling me that I'm going to give weight, I'm going to give more bias to these kinds of bearish patterns that I'm seeing in the market right now. Ichimoku resistance is of course right above us. 1-hour resistance is there as well. The 1-day resistance, we failed, and it's flipped into resistance, as I warned would happen a long time ago. So it looks bleak basically no matter what if Bitcoin starts to make its recovery. Obviously the weekly Ichi is way worse than that, because we're trading right in the middle of a massive amount of resistance, though fortunately the weekly resistance has never been reliable for Bitcoin if you look at it on the long-term chart. So the last time we had resistance, we just broke right out of it without giving any fucks, and we've never used it for support. So I don't think it's going to be hugely valuable as resistance right now on the weekly chart as well. And this is the note I want to leave you on in this video, because there are way too many traders out there that will use very obscure indicators and very obscure sort of techniques in technical analysis that have literally never proved themselves to be useful in the past before. So that would be an example like this, people kind of fear-mongering that we would be dropping lower just because we're trading in a massive resistance cloud. But we have to very objectively analyze if these things have been useful in the past, and if they haven't, then there's very little to say that it would be useful today. You know, it's the reason I talk to you a lot about the daily Ichimoku cloud, and it's the reason that through that I've successfully predicted 3 of the bounces we had with Bitcoin before we ended up dropping below the support. It's because I'm using what has proven itself to be a reliable indicator. You can see every time we ended up trading in this support cloud on the daily chart, we ended up getting a bounce until the market reversed, and then every time we traded in it as resistance, we ended up getting dropped lower. So there's no coincidence that this is a very valuable indicator, and I successfully predicted that it would continue to be the case in 2019. So it's really important, guys, that, as I said, as a last note for this video, that it's really important when you're looking at certain ways to analyze the market that you actually check if it's been reliable in the past. The daily Ichimoku cloud, for example, is one of the most reliable indicators I've found in the Bitcoin market, and with that in mind, that's why I'm sticking to it. The daily EMA ribbon, largely the same case. We can see that when the prices fall into the daily EMA ribbon, we usually get a nice bounce. It also happened to the flip side as resistance, but not as well during 2018. So I'm not going to give it as much weight, but right now we are seeing all of the bearish crossovers. We are seeing the 200 EMA also starting to give us some problems. So I think there are a lot of signs right now that if we do try and make a recovery higher, Bitcoin's going to run into some trouble, and it needs a little bit more strength than it appears to have right now. The good news is that's usually exactly what Bitcoin ends up pulling through with, so I'm not hugely concerned about it. You can kind of tell with my tone of voice right now that, you know, seeing patterns like this potential double bottom spread out over a couple of days, seeing that, you know, another really, really big point is that there's a bullish divergence in the market right now. I mean, if we throw on, let's take a look at the 2-hour chart. It's a bit more obvious. If we throw on the parallel channel and we take a look at what's been going on with Bitcoin's actual price action, it's trading in a trend a little bit like this, while our, if I move the chart a little bit, while our RSI is actually trading in a bit of an upward trend. So right there, like that, and you can see that right now we have a divergence where the price is trending lower but the RSI is trending higher, and what this means is that the relative strength in the market is increasing while the price is decreasing, and that's usually a sign that things are about to reverse. And that means if we're going to reverse, we're already in a bearish trend. That would mean we're going to trade upwards. The RSI would probably end up going sideways or end up trading downwards again because it's cyclical in that nature. So it's just yet another sign that potentially we are due for a reversal, and I am seeing those very short-term basically cracks in the bearish chart right now. But overall, I do still think that it starts to become difficult for Bitcoin, especially because it has started to fail a lot of the more important levels. It has shown weakness in the midterm chart. It is obviously in a bearish pattern right now, and it is entirely possible and normal to break out of bearish patterns like this and then get stopped somewhere a little bit higher before the price trend continues lower and fulfills the bottom level that it needs to hit. So I don't think this would be out of the ordinary. Of course, while I'm making my trades, including the trade today, VIPs are seeing exactly what's going on. They're getting full access to all of the trades I'm entering. They're seeing where I'm entering them, what levels I'll be taking profits, where my stop loss is going to be, and also the real-time updates on where I'm taking profits. I think I already said that. The real-time updates on where I'm adjusting the position to keep myself up to date with the most important moves in the market according to how it evolves. You know, it's really important that while you're on the fly, while you're making money, while you're already in profit, that you reevaluate what the market is doing. This means, let's say I was in a long position right now from this level, I would be doing my real-time analysis at this level, and as I told you, we're starting to see some signs that this bull flag is going to play to the upside. And with that in mind, perhaps I wouldn't take too many profits here. If I already had 50% of my position set to close at this level, I might reduce that to say 10% of my position to close at this level while we're rising higher, and then reevaluate it, and I'd update my decision to be that instead I'm going to let a lot more of the position ride instead of closing it early, because it does look like it has a little bit of that strength right now. Decisions like that are what can turn a 10% profit into 100% profit, and big numbers like that are not out of the ordinary in the VIP group. A lot of people are making money that they just didn't ever expect they could pull in the past, and it is absolutely not a coincidence. Again, pulling a 176% profit because I saw this dump coming, and I, along with many VIP members, was ready to trade that blood and profit from it to get the Bitcoin wallet a little bit fatter. If you want to find out how to join VIP, find out what you've been missing out on all this time, the way to join is by following this link in the description down below, clicking on the @4flies and then clicking on send message to ask me how to join VIP. I really hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, do make sure to hit up those thumbs, those like buttons, subscribe, and tick the bell if you're new to this channel. And with that, I'm out. Peace.